Hey guys, and welcome back to Hensama. Today I started a new project, a deep dive into every major change that 4Kids made to Sonic X, as it was broadcast publicly in 2003 and onward. Sonic X was one of 4Kids' more popular productions, and it's easy to see why. Although a controversial figure now, Sonic the Hedgehog in 2003 was still in the twilight of his popularity as a franchise, having recently gone multi-platform in the video game realm, and new games still selling millions of copies worldwide. From McDonald's deals to bankrolling new games and comics yearly, Sega then had a decent handle on the Sonic franchise, so much so that they partnered with Japanese animation studio TMS to produce the first Sonic the Hedgehog anime series, Sonic X. Sonic X never did crazy well in Japan, but internationally and especially in the United States, it was a ratings success, staying on public television networks until 2014 when the last dedicated public animation block went silent. In fact, the series was so popular that a special third season was commissioned, the World Saga, almost exclusively for Western audiences in mind, but we'll get to that saga when we get there. As 4Kids tends to do with their productions, there was a host of changes made to the original Japanese version in their effort to make the series more marketable to a Western audience. I personally think Sonic X is already a pretty vanilla series, but I know that 4Kids and especially public broadcasting stations operate by a different set of rules, so there was always going to be changes made to the English dub. I'll be taking a look at Sonic X saga by saga, with one video dedicated to each one, so keep that in mind as I move along. So what are the changes? Only one way to find out. Grab your favorite chili dog and get yourself into high gear as we look at how 4Kids censored Sonic X, the new World Saga. The first thing to note before diving into respective episodes is talking about general edits done to the series as a whole. You should know that the entire soundtrack has been replaced. This is pretty standard stuff in 4Kids productions, as the soundtracks generally differ between the dub and the original Japanese version. This also extends to the opening and ending credits. The original opening Sonic Drive and original ending credits Mirai Future were replaced by a brand new opening that I like to call Blink 180 Fast. It's actually called Gotta Go Fast, and the ending credits uses a semi-instrumental version of this. It's a brand new, very catchy theme, and it fits the aesthetic of the series so well that the title kind of became an anthem for the character. You can't think about Sonic without saying gotta go fast. The English opening also reminds me of Blink 182 and other pop-punk bands of the era. Another difference between the versions is that gunfire sound effects have been changed to laser sound effects. This happens every time gunfire is exchanged. To 4Kids' credit, they actually didn't censor any of the actual animation footage on the firearms used in the series, which is much different from their practices later on, or even during the same era. I think it helps that only the police generally use firearms, but anytime any of Eggman's robots shoot bullets, or even the police, just know that the sound effects sound like lasers in the dub versus realistic sounding gunshots in the original Japanese version. Moving past the music and sound effects, in every episode, the title screen, eye catcher, and next episode previews are also removed. This is pretty ordinary stuff in 4Kids productions, as most of their productions remove these in the interest of saving more time for commercials. Instead, the dub contains no title screen, no eye catcher, and no next episode previews. By removing these and having a shorter opening and ending credits, 4Kids was able to shave off about 2 minutes per episode, and that's even before getting to the actual content of the episode. So with all these general changes out of the way, let's start by looking at individual episodes. Episode 1. Episode 1 has been retitled From Supersonic Hero Peers to Chaos Control Freaks. This episode starts off the series on a high note, with Sonic infiltrating Eggman's base. It's very high action and very intense. The first change is that in every scene with Eggman's robots shooting bullets at Sonic, the sound effect of the bullets have been changed to laser sound effects. Eggman's base is also mistranslated as Chaos Control, which is actually an action that the Chaos Emeralds cause rather than the name of the actual base itself. When Sonic is racing Sam, the Japanese version uses an insert song to get the fans hyped up for the fast-paced race. This is changed to 4Kids' generic stock music in the dub. Also, when Sonic goes so fast that he leaves Sam behind, there's an explanation of what a sonic boom is, that is removed from the English dub. It's just a splash screen with Japanese text. 4Kids could have at least translated it, but they removed the scene altogether instead. Episode 2. Episode 2 has been retitled from Infiltrate Area 99 to Sonic to the Rescue. In Episode 2, we get the first long piece of footage that's removed. The dub removes the recap of Episode 1, and it's a pretty lengthy one, at about a minute long. But it doesn't do much to make the episode any more interesting, so it's not a great loss here. The dub also removes the text behind this officer that says Bulls Ox. It's pretty funny since bollocks is a slang insult in the UK, but it might also be misinterpreted as bullcocks, which, yeah, they were going to change that anyway. Note that all the other text is left as is. The dub also removes the text Ice Express International Logistics and Fast Shipping text on the billboard where cream and cheese are found. It replaces it with a splash wave and nothing else. And finally, for Episode 2, Sonic actually says shit in the Japanese version, shit. And this is changed to cream hang on in the dub. Episode 3. Episode 3 has been retitled from Dr. Eggman's Ambition to Missile Wrist Rampage. The dub skips a recap of Episode 2, which is roughly a minute and a half long. This is more unnecessary padding, so I can see why it was skipped. The text on the magazine that says something like more is removed in the dub. The police gunfire sound effect is changed to lasers here, which is pretty ridiculous since it's very obviously regular guns, as I mentioned in the intro, but I digress. The text Dan Top on the billboard has been changed to a red squiggle, and shortly after, a different billboard loses its text on its toothpaste advertisement, which previously said Flash On or Flash 1. Tails is playing, the tornado shoots bullets at Eggman's robots. The bullet sound effect is replaced with lasers as usual. And finally, the text Tone is removed in two scenes when a group of bystanders are watching Eggman's carnage unfold on the sidewalk TVs. I'm pretty sure that's because it's too close to Sony, the brand, the media giant. So yeah, this is an understandable change. Episode 4. This episode has been retitled from Get the Chaos Emerald to Chaos Emerald Chaos. This episode's changes are all about text removal. In Chris's classroom, some text is left alone, and some text is removed in signage throughout the episode. In this scene, text on the papers to the left have text removed, as well as the blue paper on the right. Then in this scene, the Japanese character in the back is changed into an apple. Like I said, these changes occur throughout the episode. I also just noticed that the W is changed too. And finally, when Chris is wheeling away later in the episode, the text EAD is removed as he's skating away. Episode 5. This episode has been retitled from Clash Sonic vs. Knuckles to Cracking Knuckles. This episode keeps the translation error of having Eggman's base being called Chaos Control. Eggman's base never had a name in the Japanese version, so I think the error came from the phrase Chaos Control being thrown around frequently in the Japanese version, and the translators believing that to be a proper noun name versus an action as it actually is. In the same flashback to episode 1, the dub shortens the flashback by about 9 seconds. And finally, the scene where Eggman's robots go haywire and starts shooting everywhere is cut shorter in the dub. The dub removes the segment of the middle footage, which is largely recycled animation. Episode 6. This episode's title has been changed from Fierce Battle School Wars to Techno Teacher. Much like in episode 4, when Chris is in school, much of the text on the signage and flyers in the background are removed. In this shot, we see that no and the cancel sign is changed to green rectangles. And in this shot, yes, love, health, and whatever it says on the ice cream are removed in the English dub. Strangely, the flyer that says 1-2 is kept as is, but if 4Kids is known for anything, it's lack of consistency. Here, the English text behind Mr. Stewart is removed. I can't make any sense of it, but maybe you guys can. And in these shots, more of the same text is removed on the blackboard next to Mr. Stewart. Similarly, when he's sneaking off to go do spy stuff in the restroom, the text man is removed from the bathroom's gender identifier. Look at 4Kids being ahead of the curve in 2003. And when he's actually doing spy stuff, the text engage and transmit are removed from his watch gadget thing. And finally, the text vegan and shiver are removed from these two scenes where Mr. Stewart is being chased by a police officer. These mad lads at 4Kids really didn't like the idea of vegan food options, which before I would have agreed with, but with the new world of Impossible Burgers, it ain't that bad. Remember, meat is murder, but trying to put a bunch of bullets through a hedgehog is a-okay. Episode 7. This episode has been retitled from Giant Free-for-All, Chris's House Party to Party Hardly. The text on the poster that Sonic grabs says Peace Park originally, and this has been removed in the dub. Also check out Sonic's lanky grab here. That's weird, right? It's not just me? How he looks like he's being stretched out beyond his mortal capacities? That's weird, right? Later on, as Amy reads a magazine, the text World Waker is removed. This makes me think of Wind Waker. That's always a good thought to have. Next is this removed shot of Amy putting up a scroll with Japanese text that is cut out of the English dub. Now here's a pretty interesting change. Mr. Stewart is commonly commenting on this painting at the Thorndikes' house. This painting is changed in the dub, largely because the Japanese version uses a modified version of Piet Mondrian's famous 1930 painting composition with red, blue, and yellow. So it was likely changed to avoid any resemblance to that, but it's still kind of obvious that this is what the reference is. And finally, when Sam is talking about how he lost to Sonic in a street race, the dub cuts out some footage, equating to about 3 seconds, leaving the Japanese version just a little bit longer. Episode 8. Episode 8 changes the title from Emergency Launch X Tornado to Satellite Swindle. This episode only has a few changes. The first of which is that this Barney-looking ripoff, Dancing, is longer in the Japanese version. The dub cuts out about 3 seconds. The text Next Show is also removed from the background. And finally, when Tails is shooting one of Eggman's robots with a tornado, the sound effect is once again replaced from normal sounding bullets to laser blasts. Episode 9. Episode 9 has its title changed from Amy on the Beach to The Last Resort. The flyer that Mr. Tanaka holds up has the bottom information removed, instead adding a picture of a villa. This largely gets the same idea across, but the text on the flyer doesn't have any strange content or even any English. They could have left it alone as is. Once at the villa, the dub removes these criminally offensive scenes of Chow having fun with the beach water and of Tails and Cream making a sandcastle. When Eggman's robots attack the villa and knock down the building, the scene of a Statue of Liberty knockoff with Eggman's figure on it being constructed is removed. I like this statue a lot, and I'm pretty sad that it's not in the dub. I vaguely get a 9/11 feel from this shot, so it could be that, but I'm not quite sure why it was removed. And finally, the scene of Amy attacking E39 is much longer in the Japanese version, as the dub cuts out the middle footage to make the action much faster. Altogether, about 5 seconds are cut out. Episode 10. Episode 10 has its episode title changed from Fierce Fight Sonic Baseball Team to Unfair Baseball. The first change in this episode is that the Japanese version has a misspelling on Diamond Stadium, having an A in place of a U. The dub fixes this error. The scoreboard also contains different letters, as the Japanese version contains HEF and the dub contains RHE. I'm not a baseball guy, but this might be a variation on how the USA and Japan generally score their games. The episode also contains a lot of text removal in the signs of the stadium. It's pretty inconsistent as to whether it's there or not, but generally if it's readable, then the dub removes it. The pan of the Eggbots before Eggman himself jumps down from his carrier is also cut out, as is this action shot of the Eggbots starting to throw one another to catch a home run. This scene of Scarlett Garcia reporting is much shorter in the dub, losing about 4 seconds of footage. 4Kids really didn't like this extreme close-up of her, as they actively avoided showing it whenever they could. And finally, this long scene with multiple moving components is much shorter in the dub. Chuck Thorndike giving advice to Cream is cut out, and as she goes to the stand, her telling the egg robot that it is cute is cut out, as is it turning red from blushing so hard. Altogether, about 13 seconds are cut out, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the suggestive content. I mean, it's obviously a joke, but Cream is also like 6 years old, or something close to that. So the idea that she shows agency in her romance capacity, yeah, that's definitely something too lewd for something like Sonic X, especially given her age. Episode 11. Episode 11 has its title changed from The Beautiful and Mysterious Thief Rouge to Fly Spy. The episode starts with some security guards so bored that they play some blackjack. Cut out of the dub is this footage where one of the guards is actually pretty stoked that he won, and the other guy dismayed into disbelief that he lost. This is a roughly 10-second cut altogether. A few scenes later, in Chris's classroom, the dub cuts out this shot of the blackboard displaying a theme, "Things That I Want," as well as some accompanying text removal in the same scene. This happens later on in the episode as well, in a blatant example of recycled animation. Now this next one is a pretty famous one. When Topaz puts a handcuff on Rouge, she says, "You're pretty tough for an old lady," in the dub. While in the original Japanese version, she says, "Oh, so you like to play rough, huh?" That would never have been allowed in any 4Kids production, let alone any anime aimed at children. I have to question the sanity of the original Japanese writers on why they'd include something like this, as it's definitely beyond lewd for something aimed at kids. But then again, look at Rouge's character design and what they had to work with, and it all starts to make sense. Next is the removal of English text from the police scanner map thing of Eggman's base. Every time they show it, it has the English text detailing different segments of the base removed. And finally, we have the usual sound effects of bullets being replaced with laser sound effects when Rouge is confronting Eggman's robots. Episode 12. Episode 12 has its title changed from Attack on Eggman's Base Part 1 to Beating Eggman Part 1. In the very first scene, the text "Walk on Earth" has its text removed from the book Sonic is reading. Now here's a weird difference. In the Japanese version, the TV says Sonic, whereas the dub has the Channel 5 news graphic. I think this may have been a placeholder image in the Japanese version, before they were able to add anything. It's pretty ugly, honestly, and looks very low budget. While Mr. Stewart is driving, the background scenery loses a lot of text in the dub. It's replaced by squiggles that don't denote any kind of language. Shortly afterwards, before jumping on the freeway, this text is removed from the dub on the storefront and sign on the top. And shortly after this, when Mr. Stewart turns around on the freeway signs lose their text in the dub as well. When Eggman is watching TV, the infomercial he is watching loses its phone number in the dub. It's already a fake number. What kind of phone number has 3 X's in it anyway? But the dub removes it either way. And in the same scene, when the signal gets glitchy, the dub replaces this shot of an apology message in Japanese with the same static image as before. That's actually a pretty neat edit, and I wish I knew how to edit like that. And when the signal comes back, the phone number is still missing in the dub. Some shots of Eggman's robots attacking the military ship and shooting are removed from the dub. This is about 3 seconds of footage altogether. This scene of the president getting ready to speak is much longer in the Japanese version, losing a shot of a runner running through the scene. In this shot, the "hello hello" text is removed from the dub. Then shortly after, this recycled animation of the robot from earlier shooting, but this time mirrored, is removed again. This shot of the military plane getting ready to fly away is also much longer in the Japanese version. It loses about 5 seconds of footage in this long pan. And finally, this scene of the plane flying off and it transitioning into Sonic looking for Chris is much longer in the Japanese version. The dub cuts out about 13 seconds here. Episode 13. Episode 13's episode title is changed from Attack on the Eggman Base Part 2 to Beating Eggman Part 2. In the first, the dub actually adds footage with a recap of the previous episode. This is about 30 seconds long altogether. Here's a consistent change that the dub makes for obvious reasons. Every time it cuts to the citizens of Station Square watching the giant television, there's a censor on the advertisement under it. In the Japanese version, it's an ad for Kaki Kukeiko beer, whereas the dub changes it to simply cola. 4Kids even changed the color of the liquid to make it resemble cola color. This happens about 4 times throughout the episode. As usual, whenever somebody shoots something that originally had realistic sounding bullets, it's changed to laser sound effects in the dub. This happens with Eggman's robots and the X-Tornado. And finally, the dub trims down footage of Eggman's base collapsing by significantly cutting down the frames. and especially this 5-second shot of it coming down. And that's about it for the first arc in Sonic X. As you can see, there's a world of differences between the original Japanese version and the 4Kids dub, but overall, oddly, the translation remains largely faithful. While watching both versions simultaneously, there were many moments where the translations matched almost 1-to-1, so Sonic X is certainly not the worst dubbed 4Kids ever produced. With that being said, the scene trimming, the text removal, and sound effects replacement is a persistent issue throughout the series. Tune in next time as I cover the Chaos Emerald Saga, episodes 14 to 26, and those changes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to help the channel grow. This channel would be nothing without your guys' support, and I certainly appreciate the love and energy received from you guys, so let's keep the momentum going. Thank you guys again, and as always, have a great one.